Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I am wearing a hoodie this morning. It's a nice hoodie, but the exciting thing that this hoodie signifies is that it's finally cold enough to wear hoodies. I woke up this morning, ran out to get a coffee, and it was like actually chilly. So my favorite part of the year is about to begin, and I can feel myself like coming alive. I feel like most people get seasonal depressive disorder in the winter, like when summer ends. For me, it's the exact opposite. Like for me, as soon as it starts to get warmer in the spring, like hot, I feel like I immediately start to feel down, and it's really hard for me to like have fun and feel excited for summer. But like this is where I start to just blossom. Very excited for the rest of the year. Q4 is my favorite. Also, shout out to 11,000 subscribers. I just hit that milestone the other day and I had a good cry about it because it's incredible to have so many people sort of interested in what I have to say in this corner of the internet. And I'm just so chuffed I've been able to put the time and energy to this YouTube channel, you know, outside of work. Like I do this in my free time. It takes a lot of effort. And I feel so happy that it's something that I've prioritized, and I'm so glad that all of you are part of the journey. So if you are new, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos. Anyway, that is not the point of today's video. I was actually planning a different video for today, for this weekend, but someone asked a question on last week's video that I love, that I actually haven't done a video on, and it's something that's so relevant and something that was very difficult for me. And I love doing videos like this. I feel like I try to answer a lot of questions in the comments, but some questions I think deserve like a longer form video and a little bit more context. So this was a comment on last week's video about alcohol use disorder and red flags that I noticed in my drinking. Liara, that's the other thing. I'm trying to like guess people's names based on their usernames. That might not be your name. This was a great video, Lizzie. Thank you. I recognized all of the same red flags in myself and still find it very difficult to abstain from drinking socially. I can easily do without it for 1, 2, 3 weeks, and then inevitably there's a party, an event, or a get-together where everyone is drinking and I usually end up drinking. I'm trying my best to break the cycle, and I've effortlessly abstained for 27 of the 28 days in August. That's awesome. My next goal is sober September. Thanks for the inspiring content. Your videos are part of my stop drinking tools belt. First of all, thank you so much for the comments. I feel like I say this in every video. I don't mean to sound redundant or disingenuous, but truly the comments are one of my most rewarding parts of this YouTube channel. I just never expected people to be so open and so vulnerable and so supportive in the comments with each other and with me. And it's just something that I think is so important, because having that conversation, you know, openly with other people is what my biggest goal with this YouTube channel was. So thank you for watching, thank you for commenting, and a great question. So let's talk about how to navigate sobriety, especially early sobriety, when you're around other people who are drinking. Because this is, especially for me early in my journey, this was absolutely like my stumbling block, if you will. Like I could, you know, if I was on my own and I was doing my own thing, like not drinking wasn't that big of a problem. But when I was then around other people who were drinking, you know, in social events, that kind of thing, where there was alcohol, that's usually where I would slip to. Okay, so first things first, I feel like it's important to recognize why it's difficult and how it's very normal that it's difficult to sort of navigate being around other people who are drinking when you are not drinking. In general, people don't want to stand out from the crowd. You know, you don't want to be the one person that's doing something differently, draw attention to yourself. It makes us feel weird. It makes us feel not normal. And that's just kind of in our nature as a social creature to fit into the crowd for safety. Obviously for safety, it doesn't really matter the same way anymore, but we still have this sort of inclination to avoid drawing attention to ourselves, avoid doing things like that are really different or make us stand out from everyone else around us. And drinking is just such a normal part of our culture and most people's lifestyles that choosing to not drink is very much against the grain of what's considered normal, right? I've said it many times on my channel, like when I was quitting drinking in my 20s, like I didn't know anyone, like personally, or even in my town. Like I didn't know anyone who was my age, who was social, who was like fun and went out and didn't drink or was sober. Like that was just not, I'd never met someone like that. I literally like never even considered that people like that existed. And so when I was first like trying to stop drinking, it made it really hard because I felt like I was the only person like in town that was trying to do that. So in the same way as the commenter, I feel like I was doing really well on my own. I'd go like a few weeks, like no problem by myself. And then I would get to an event or a party, or I'd go out to a brewery, like where we used to go all the time. And that's where like I would really struggle, you know, to like hold off. And then eventually I would just get a drink. And I feel like that especially was really, really bad for me, because in that sober curious phase where I was trying to quit, and then slipping up like that, like, you know, a few weeks in, and then slipping up at like a social event, not only did I obviously break my streaks, but I would feel so much shame and guilt the next day. Like it was all the bad feelings I had already felt with drinking previously, like amplified, because it was such a big disappointment to me, you know? And I feel like then it sort of perpetuated the cycle to where I'd be like, well, you know, I can't do it, obviously, so, you know, why am I even trying? And then maybe I would drink for a few more weeks before I tried again. Not a fun place to be. I know how, like, oh, baby. Giuseppe's sitting right here. Hi, baby. And he just did, like, the cute face stretch. You know, when, like, cats, like, stretch their whole body and they put their little paws over their face, and it's the cutest thing they could possibly do. Oh! All right, what was I talking about? Shame. Yeah. And I would just feel so bad, and I would drink for a little while longer and kind of start the whole process over again. And that was, I think, a good 6 months to a year of my drinking towards the end, was sort of me trying to quit, and just having a really hard time, especially around sort of social situations. So I'm saying this more than anything just to let you know that you are so not alone in this. I think this is a super, super common issue that people face, especially in early sobriety. You're already putting in the work, you already have tools under your belt to sort of set yourself up for success in sobriety, and you're obviously making it far enough on your own that this is sort of one specific circumstance that's causing issues. Okay, so let's talk about some ways that worked for me personally to help sort of work around this, to avoid this from happening. So the first tip that I'll give, and this is one that was super uncomfy for me, might be uncomfy for you too, depending on your circumstance, but tip number one is to tell someone who's going to be at the party or at the event that you are trying not to drink. This was difficult for me because at the time when I was sort of in my early quitting days, I hadn't talked to most of my friends that I was trying to quit drinking. Like that was something that I kept very private. I didn't talk about being sober curious. That's like something I held very close to my chest, because I felt a lot of shame around it, and I didn't really feel like people would understand. So when I was first trying to quit drinking on my own, I wouldn't tell people. And so I would go into these social events with all my friends who, you know, bless their hearts, didn't know that I was trying to quit drinking. It just made it that much more difficult, because then you walk in the door and they go, oh my God, Elizabeth, hey, like, what can I get you to drink? Here's a beer, you know? And by the time someone has put a drink in your hand, like, you are so much closer to being tempted to drink it, or just being like, this is now, I'm like in too deep for me to put it down and be like, oh, no thank you, you know, without having to say anything. It puts you between a rock and a hard place, right? And I feel like that's often what would happen. So one of the most important tips, I think, is letting someone know, even if it's just one other person who's going to be there, that you are trying not to drink. I feel like ideally it's someone who's close, your best friend, your partner, someone like that could be at the event. And this works for two ways. Not that it's their job to keep you from drinking. That's totally not the point of this. The point is that you know that someone else knows you're trying not to drink. If you're the only person at the event that knows you're not trying to drink and you end up drinking, the only person you've let down is yourself, which is a huge deal, but it's like private. No one else knows. You haven't like let anyone down. There's no sort of external leverage, you know, for your decision. For me, I was like, well, I'm already used to letting myself down. Like, yeah, I failed, obviously. You know, like it just perpetuated this negative cycle in my own mind, but I was the only person that I was letting down. By telling someone else, as uncomfortable as that is, at the event, like I knew going into the event that I didn't want to drink there, right? Now I also know that someone else here knows that I'm trying not to drink. That gives me like an external little extra motivation not to drink. Again, not that it's their job to like encourage you, which is awesome if they do. Like if you are struggling, you have someone you can talk to there, that's awesome. But just knowing that someone else knows, that like totally changed the game for me, you know? Like it was just another motivation for me to be like, okay, like if I drink, it's not just gonna be me that knows, it'll be someone else too. And again, not for shame, not for guilt, just that little bit of extra external motivation and validation of my goal for the evening. Now, tip number 1.5 because it kind of folds into the first one. And I'm also not trying to say that the commenter is in the same boat as me, but if you are in the same boat as me, where you haven't told friends or people around you that you're trying not to drink, and doing tip number 1 and telling someone about like your struggles and where you're at and sober curiosity, that's totally okay. Like you can wait on that. So my tip 1.5 that I used is having a low pressure reason. So in this case for the commenter, they've already said that they want to try doing sober September, which is amazing. And honestly, you could do this for any month of the year. When I finally quit drinking in February, I had tried to do dry January and failed. And I remember there was some kind of event, I don't remember what now, later in February. So I'd already been sort of sober for a few weeks. I hadn't told anyone about it. And at the event, I knew that I didn't want to drink and I needed a reason, and I wasn't ready to tell like the people around me that I was trying to like quit drinking forever. So I said, I'm doing sober February. And it gave me an out of drinking that people understood, right? People do like monthly challenges for not drinking, like dry January or sober October or whatever, like are not uncommon. You know, people might be like, ugh, whatever, you know, but like it's not crazy. People are not gonna like think that there's something wrong with you. So I said, I'm doing sober February, you know, like I'm already a few weeks in, I feel so good, blah, blah, blah. And I had this like not super intense reason for why I wasn't drinking at the event, but it gave me like an easy enough out that people didn't question too much. So in this case, if you're doing sober September, for example, or sober October, for anyone watching this, like picking a month coming up and being like, oh, well, I'm doing sober September, like I'm not going to be drinking tonight, gives you a solid explanation for why you're not drinking without inviting like unwanted or conversations that you're just not ready to have yet. Okay, so that's sort of the most difficult part, but the most important tip in my opinion. Tip number 2 is to either bring your own non-alcoholic alternatives, or if you're going to a destination, a restaurant, a bar, something like that, calling ahead and checking if they have anything. Preparedness is your best friend. Again, if you go to a party and you're trying not to drink and you get there and all they have is beer and they don't even have like soda and the only alternative that you have is like a glass of milk or a glass of tap water, there's a good chance you're gonna have a beer because you don't want to be standing there with a glass of tap water. Totally understandable. Definitely ran into this as well. There are so many non-alcoholic options. Even if you're not into like non-alcoholic beers or wines or whatever, like bringing a 6-pack of soda, whatever your favorite soda is, to a party so that you have something to drink that you know you like is huge. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're at a party, and you know, I've noticed this so much over the course of the past 3.5 years sober, as long as you have something that you're drinking in your hand, like people are not even registering that you're not drinking. You know what I mean? Like you could have Coca-Cola in a red cup and no one will notice that you're not drinking. You walk around with a can of non-alcoholic beer and nobody's going to know that you're somehow the one person in the house that's not drinking. Back to the beginning of the video, it helps you feel like you're not totally out of place and like standing out in the crowd. But that preparedness and having something on hand that you like, that you know you're going to enjoy drinking is huge. Now, if you're going to a place, a bar, a brewery, something like that, I do think it's very encouraging that today the majority, if not all of the restaurants that I go to usually have something non-alcoholic that I can drink. And most establishments, if you call ahead and ask, will be happy to tell you what they have on hand. I think the comfort of knowing that there's going to be something that you can drink ahead of time without having to like go in and then have to ask awkwardly, like knowing that they have something is just a huge comfort, you know, ahead of time going into the social event, because you already have enough to worry about like with the social part of it. They don't have to have the additional stress of being like, oh my god, am I going to sound like a dweeb if I ask for a non-alcoholic beer and they don't have one. If you're again not into like NA beers and stuff like that, all bars and restaurants are going to have a few things that are sort of go-tos for me as well. I love tonic water and lime. It tastes intense enough that like I have to sip it and I don't chug it like I would a soda. So that with like a little bit of lime or a splash of cranberry or something like that is a nice thing to sip on that makes it feel like it's not, you know, water or soda. If you're going out and it's more of like a late night thing, I'm pretty sure most bars everywhere have Red Bulls. Love a Red Bull. Again, probably something you'd want to have like one of, but that's another great thing. And then of course, everyone's going to have club soda and any kind of soda. While drinking non-alcoholic beer and things like that was what I did most in my early sobriety, especially just because it was, again, the habit of like always having a beer somewhere when I was out or eating lunch or out for dinner or whatever. That was huge for me early on in my sobriety. These days, more often than not, if I'm at a restaurant or something like that, I will get a diet or Coke Zero with lemon There is nothing wrong with drinking a soda. So know what you're gonna order. If you come into a bar and you haven't called ahead or something like that and you order or ask for a non-alcoholic beer and they say, oh, we don't actually have any, know exactly what you're gonna order next, because it's easy for you to be like, oh, well, I'll take whatever your typical drink of choice is, just instinctually, because you're like in an awkward spot. So know what you're gonna order in case they don't have, what you're looking for, or if, you're going in blind. So if the bartender asks, what can I get you? Your first thing out of your mouth isn't your usual alcoholic drink of choice. Just know ahead of time, you're gonna get a Diet Coke with lemon and have that prepped. Last tip, number 3, and this was one that was really hard for me actually. It sounds very simple, but was really hard for me early in sobriety, is to leave if it's too much. And I think this is difficult for several reasons, but one of the main ones is when you are drinking alcohol, your needs and boundaries get very blurred. I could sit in a dirty, nasty pub for hours and hours when I was drinking, talking to people that I was not interested in, that I would never talk to sober, and the alcohol just kind of made it okay. Like, I could be in social situations at parties with people that I didn't like, and if I was drinking, it's like, am I having fun? No, not really, but like, I'll get through it. And so much I realize now of the things that I did for fun when I was drinking were things that I don't actually enjoy at all. But alcohol made it easy to sort of put my boundaries aside, put my needs aside, and kind of just like get through the night, When you are sober, one thing that becomes crystal clear is that it's really hard to do that. When you are not drinking, when you remove alcohol from the equation, it becomes very, very clear very quickly what things are not fun. I do not like sitting in a pub around a bunch of drunk people talking to people I don't like. I don't even have like the capacity to do that for 15 minutes. So when I first started quitting drinking, like I would be in these situations where I wasn't having fun, where I was around a bunch of drunk people or sort of in places that I didn't enjoy. And I would try to like push through it. And it made it really, really hard because I didn't want to let anyone down. I didn't want to leave early. I wanted to prove that I was like still fun and cool now that I wasn't drinking. And that took me like a while to figure out. So if you are in a situation, whether it's a party or an event, and you've been there for whatever, an hour, 30 minutes, I don't really care if you've been there for 7 minutes, and you get there and you look around and the scene ain't good and you're feeling some type of way, like maybe, it's gonna be too much for you to try and stay sober here, leave. If you need it, I give you full permission to leave any event that is going to risk your sobriety. At the end of the day, putting your health and your wellness first is a non-negotiable. And I know it's not fun, but it's okay if it makes people uncomfortable or upset with you. You can't control how other people respond, but you are in control of your own actions and decisions. It is such a flex, in my opinion, to be like, today I peace out. When people start getting drunk, people start getting rowdy, like if I don't want to go to the next place that people are going, like I just peace out. And that's a hard one because not only is that like sobriety related, that's life related, right? Sort of learning to set those boundaries, stop being a people pleaser, being able to say no is really, really hard, whether that's, related to your sobriety or not. So that's something that took time and that is uncomfortable for the first little while, but it's like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it gets, the easier it becomes. I even don't think it's really important if you're being honest or not. You don't have to tell people that like, hey, I'm worried, I'm gonna do a shot. If a fifth person asks me, so I'm gonna head home, you can just say, hey, like I'm good for the night, I had fun, thanks so much for inviting me, I'm gonna be on my way, or I have an early day tomorrow, like I need to get home, or I'm not feeling great, I need to go take a poop. I really don't care what your excuse is. I don't even care if you give an excuse. You can also just do an Irish exit. If it's just like another Saturday night out and everyone's, doing the same things that they always do every weekend, but for you it's you're 2, 3, 5, 7 weeks in of your sobriety, and like that's at risk, that's at stake. Like I don't really care what gets you out of there, just that you do. Or on the other hand, like it's okay for me to just say no and not go from the beginning. The reality is for me, in the beginning of my sobriety, like I really tried to be like, see, I'm not different at all, everything's like I'm still fun, this is all still fun for me. And then I quickly realized that it super is not still fun for me. And these days, if people are like going out to drink and I know that it's a pub crawl, like I'm out. Like I don't need to be there, It's not fun for me. And maybe it is for you and that's okay too. I'm just saying like you don't even have to attend the things that are not for you. And that's okay. So I don't even go. I'd honestly rather get takeout and sit in and watch a movie or read my book and have a cozy night. I also just want to wrap this video up by saying, it's really especially delicate in early sobriety. Like it's very difficult navigating this and learning all of these things for the first time, but I promise you that it gets so much easier. And again, I don't want to sound like a broken record because I feel like I say that a lot too, but it's so true, right? When you're learning something new, when you're navigating like an unknown territory, it's uncomfortable, it's difficult, it's challenging, but eventually like you become more and more confident in your sobriety. You become more confident knowing like, hey, I can get through weird social events without alcohol. I am strong enough to leave when I'm done and say like, no, thank you, or goodbye. And I think it's also important to note, like if you have people in your life that don't accept that or have some kind of issue with you not drinking, it's okay to let them go too. Okay, I actually thought this was gonna be a shorter video, but now that I'm finished recording, I feel like it's gonna be quite long, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thank you so much again for the comment. I know it was a big challenge for me too, so I really wanted to talk a little bit more on that. Thank you so much for watching. If you're on your sobriety journey, check out my other videos. I have tons of content on like tips like this, chatty videos talking about sobriety and my journey, and sort of other challenges that you might face along the way. If you did enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel to join the community, share a piece of encouragement, a challenge, a question in the comments, join the conversation. Again, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day or night. I want to encourage you that you are always stronger than you think and that you absolutely can do hard things. And just because something is challenging or difficult does not mean that it's bad. You know what they say, growth starts at the edge of your comfort zone, so get yourself out there. And I guess just to really put the cherry on top of this video, remember that you can have fun without alcohol. I know, especially in early sobriety, that might not feel that way, and it might feel like you're never gonna have fun again, and that's something that I definitely thought was gonna be the case for me. And I promise you that there's so much more fun on the horizon. I know this part is hard, and there's no like way around that but through, but there is so much more fun to be had on the other side of this. So, you know, stay the course, get through the hard stuff, train that muscle, and I promise you, there's such a full, rich life waiting for you without alcohol in it. I'm just so hyped for everyone who's just starting out the journey, truly, truly. All right, that's it for me. I'm gonna wrap this video up before it's like 30 minutes long. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Sending you lots of light and love on your journey.